if trying to change something hasn't worked for a long time, the problem might be that you're trying to change it. Now, that probably sounds strange, especially if you're someone who's built your life by taking action like I have. In fact, you may need to go back and read it again or listen to it again. If trying to change something hasn't worked for a long time, the problem might be that you're trying to change it. See, in the last video, I talked about how reactions happen automatically. They're part of a mechanism that none of us are clued into. Our kids aren't taught this in school when they're growing up, and there's no language for it because it's so invisible. It's operating right in front of our eyes, and yet we don't see it. We assign meaning to something that occurs even before we're aware of it. And this video is about what actually creates change once you start to see that system. So most of us have learned to change our lives through action, right? I mean, have you ever heard someone say that, hey, none of this matters? All these ideas that you learned over the weekend, like let's say you go to a seminar, all these things you've learned, they don't mean a thing unless you put them into play in your life, right? I mean, it works in business, it works in the gym, it works in performance, it works even at home. So of course, we bring that same strategy, it's the only strategy we know, into our inner world. So the questions we start asking and the way we start looking center around taking action. In fact, as a coach, it's one of the first things that somebody asks me. Okay, Andy, that's fine and dandy, but what do I do? Now, I'm going to use a gym analogy because I was a fitness coach for 20 some odd years, and the gym is a very useful proving ground. Like you can see things physically in the gym that occur on the spot in a way that you can't necessarily in your mind or in the rest of the world that we live in. So in the gym, nothing really changes until you notice what you're doing. Noticing what you're doing comes first. Now, I'll tell you some of the tools that people use to notice what they're doing. First of all, they use a mirror. That's why most gyms in the world have mirrors. Another tool they'll use is video. So they'll capture the video and then go back and watch themselves. And the third thing people use, and very common, is a coach or a trainer, somebody that's looking next to them and that can tell them and clue them in on what they're doing. However, if you go back into your life and want the changes that have occurred in the gym to propagate into your life, you actually have to know what it feels like when you're doing it incorrectly so that you can make a change. Because otherwise you don't even really realize you're doing it incorrectly. That's one of the things that I used to teach as a performance coach. We actually didn't have mirrors in the gym because we didn't ever want our clients to rely on mirrors to help them see what they're doing wrong, because when you go out in real life, there are no mirrors. You have to be able to feel it. So the upshot of all this, nothing changes until it's noticed. Whether it's in the body, it's in the mind, awareness comes first. So, by the way, if this is your first time here, thanks for being here. My name is Andy Petranek. I work with people who are highly capable, highly successful on the outside, but very often frustrated by the patterns that don't change on the inside. I'm a leadership and fulfillment coach. And these series of videos are things that I see regularly in the coaching the one-on-one coaching work that I do with my clients. These are things that I've seen over and over again, as well as things that I've had to learn myself. So let's run some game film. Let's run a real life scenario, which is what a sports team would do or a golfer would do if they wanted to fix something in their swing. Okay, so let's just take coming home in the evening. You get home late from work. Your wife or your husband says something to you, you're late again. That's it. And before you think anything, something internally, if we're slowing this way down, we're looking at the steps, something inside says, I'm failing, or I'm not appreciated, or I'm never enough. I can never do enough. She or he is unsatisfiable. This is the invisible pattern that we talked about in the last video. And so that's the meaning that you make, that your mind makes automatically in order to protect you. And immediately after that, your body has a reaction. Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, there's a sense of urgency. There's a fight or flight, a sympathetic nervous system activation that says, I'm in danger. This is example of a psychological fear as opposed to a physical fear. And this is an example of the psychological activation of the sympathetic nervous system that isn't real. It's real because you're experiencing it, but you're not actually in any danger. So at this point, the system's already running. Now, the next thing that happens is your mind wants a solution. So the mind asks, if you're able to really slow this down enough, what should I do? Should I explain? Should I stay calm? Should I use better language? Should I leave the house, turn around and come back in again? Should I take 5 deep breaths? Should I just not say anything? And this is the place that most people are stuck in, searching for an answer. What should I do? What are the steps to do? Now, here's why the solution keeps you stuck. Every part of that solution happens after the meaning has been created, after your body's been activated. The solution is being generated from the same context as the reaction. See, even if you do it right and you get an outcome that is what you want, the system just learned, run this loop again next time. And if it doesn't work, the system is reminded that there's something broken that needs fixing and keep looking for it. Now, see, the solution is coming after the effective window for it to solve the problem. And the interesting thing is there really isn't a problem. Your system has just created a method of dealing with the underlying misunderstanding that you're not enough, you're not safe, and it's looking to keep you out of danger. That's a lot of what we covered in the last video. So instead, if you're able to become aware, imagine you're able to watch this as it's happening. You notice the meaning, you notice you're tightening, you recognize a familiar move. See, awareness is the interruption. And see, there's actually a neurological reason this works. The brain doesn't change because you force a new behavior. It changes because you see an old one clearly enough, often enough, that it no longer needs to run automatically. I used to barefoot run coach. I used to help people with their running gait and gait analysis and shift their form. Most people run in their heels, whether you're a barefoot runner or you're a big Hoka shoe wearing runner, they run in their heels. And every time you land in your heels, you're effectively slowing yourself down. And one of the quickest ways to teach somebody to not run in their heels is to make them run barefoot, because you don't run naturally barefoot in your heels because it hurts. Your heels are not shock absorbers. The balls of your feet are. However, when you put your running shoes back on, without becoming aware of how it feels to run in your heels, you don't really stand a chance of making a change. Even if you apply the 5 steps to changing your running gait, you don't have a chance if you're still running in your heels. So trying harder keeps the pattern in place. One of the reasons we're talking about this right now is this video is about to come out before New Year's, and New Year's resolutions that don't work. The reason they don't work is what I'm explaining right now. So here's the thing. When you start to become aware and you are able to slow yourself down enough, you're able to create enough space where you get a choice. There's less surprise. There's more acceptance. There's more noticing, there I go again. See, your automatic responses don't own you. You're not being run anymore by your responses. When this system is running like greased lightning, and you're continuing to react the way you always have in these situations, in spite of your desire to do it differently, the system's running you. You're getting used by the system that you built. So as you gain awareness, as you start to create space, as you start to see, you start to create a relationship with you, and you start to see this for what it is. See, I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. If you've been trying to change something for a long time and it hasn't worked, the answer might not be to do more. The answer might be to see more. Write it down. Become ultra aware. Pretend you're Sherlock Holmes and you're looking for clues. This won't fix it, but your goal is not to fix it. There's nothing broken, first of all. Your goal is to wake up to how your system actually works. I'll be back in a week or two with my next video. I hope to see you then.